So today's video, as you can see by the title, is I want to share with you 5 tips to making new healthy habits stick when willpower wanes. So I know a lot of people think it's all about willpower, and it really isn't, because willpower is a finite resource. It's not always available to us. So I want to help you out with that. So let's go. If you're brand new to me, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Berta Lippert, and I am a Mayo Clinic trained and National Board Certified Health and Wellness Coach. And where I specialize is helping people institute change in their lives. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, the first tip is autonomy. Now, there's 2 things I always focus on when I'm in my coaching session with my clients, and it's always autonomy and self-efficacy. And we'll get to self-efficacy next. But what I mean by autonomy is, you guys, the changes that you like to institute in your life and these healthy habits that you're trying to create and make sure they stick around, is you want to make sure that it's something that's compelling enough and important enough to you that you want to wake up and work on these things every day. A lot of times what will happen is, people might be chasing something, some kind of external rewards, or somebody else outside of them is trying to direct their behavior change, right? And that doesn't really work. So we want to make sure that what's going on in your life and the direction that you're going and the changes that you're instituting, these healthy habits that you're creating, are something that's important to you. And what this is called is intrinsic motivation. And why this is really important is it comes to that second part, the motivation. Here's what happens a lot of the times, is people will try to delegate their motivation, and it just doesn't work that way, okay? I see it all the time. They're thinking that something outside of themselves will be able to motivate them to create these changes. And sometimes temporarily that might work somewhere. You find some inspiration or some motivation out there, which is fine. But you want to make sure, again, that you're in the driver's seat of these changes, and you know yourself best, and you know exactly where you want to go. So make sure that the tip number 1 you follow is autonomy. The second tip I want to share with you today is self-efficacy. Now, self-efficacy is basically just the belief in ourselves that we're able to achieve something. And often the only limitations we face are really in our own minds, right? I mean, we're often the only thing standing in our own way. Where we get ourselves into trouble with this and self-efficacy is oftentimes we have a goal and we're really excited, and just right out of the gate we just take on too much too soon. Maybe we can do it for a little bit, but we just can't sustain it long term, and then we start to adopt this belief that, oh, I was never capable of that anyway, and that couldn't be further from the truth. It just might take a little bit of time to build up these habits and be able to sustain them long term. So what I recommend that you do here is simply start out small. For whatever reason, people don't want to be seen, kind of starting out small. And there's no shame in that. It doesn't matter wherever you're at in your journey. Just pick a step, something that you really feel confident, that you're like, okay, I can handle this at this particular time in my life and with whatever's going on. So for example, maybe if you have a goal to lose 30 pounds, you know that you're going to have to move a little more. And maybe what you do is you start out with a goal that's simply, I'm going to walk 10 minutes during lunch. Something that you really feel good about and that you're confident that you can achieve. And the reason why this is important, you guys, is so what happens with self-efficacy is as that increases, so do the size of our goals. So when you're able to tackle something that makes us feel good, it increases our confidence and our self-efficacy, and then we'll take on bigger and bigger tasks, and it kind of just snowballs until eventually we reach our goal. The third tip I want to share with you today is routines. So routines or habits or patterns, whatever it is you'd like to refer to them as. The reason why these are so helpful is it just makes us feel like we have a better sense of control over things. When it comes to creating routines, you guys, what I recommend is approach this like you're just doing an experiment. Now remember, autonomy tip number 1, you're in the driver's seat. You know yourself best. So kind of take some time to think, where am I right now? What's going to work the best? And give it a go. And just keep tweaking that, and eventually be something that works really well, and then it just becomes habit, and you don't require the amount of energy or intention or anything like that it did in the beginning. One thing I wanted to share with you that was really helpful for me when I was creating routines in my own life was to establish a morning routine. So I think sometimes we focus on just the really specifics of the meals or nutrition or an exercise routine or something like that, and then I realized, and through a few books that I read and my own coach, I have a positive psychology coach, and she helped me really establish a morning routine that just allowed my day to unfold so much better, and I was so more productive, and everything else, the nutrition goals or the exercise goals or whatever else just really seemed to fit better when I started out my day with a specific morning routine. And for you, that might be a morning routine, it might be an evening routine, it might be a prayer routine, meditation routine, or whatever it might be. So I just challenge you to kind of think outside of the kind of pillars of wellness that you might be thinking of, and establish some other routines that will lend themselves well to your health and wellness goals. Tip number 4 is I want you to focus on adding and not subtracting. And what I mean by that is this. Oftentimes when we start to initiate change in our lives and we have a big goal, maybe it's to lose weight or we want to save money for something or whatever it would be, we tend to just focus on what we have to give up. All these restrictions or what these fun things we feel like we can no longer do, which really isn't the case, by the way. But when you focus on those things, it certainly doesn't feel good, right? It's not very motivating at all. So I want to make sure you don't do that. You want to be intentional here and focus on all the things you have to gain by making these changes in your life. What is it that you're going to be able to do then that you're not able to do now once you do this? And I really want you to focus on how you'll feel. Right now, maybe you've got some pretty heavy stuff that's weighing you down. Whether it's financial struggles or relationships or your health and wellness, whatever it would be. Just sit for a minute and what would it feel like for you to be able to, have that weight off your shoulders? And think about all the things you have to gain once you achieve that goal. So again, number 4 is I want you to focus on adding everything you have to gain and not so much what you have to give up. The final tip, number 5, is consistency. So you heard the phrase, slow and steady wins the race. I want you to focus on the steady part of that. Steady wins the race. Consistency will always win. Now you've heard me say this a million times before. I'm going to say it again to wrap up these 5 tips today. But what you do daily is what matters the most. What you do daily is what matters the most. If you have an off day or an off meal or you skipped a workout or whatever it is, it doesn't mean that it has to derail you from all of your other efforts. As long as you're consistent, that's what matters the most. So just take it one day at a time, and I assure you that whatever it is you'd like to achieve, it's possible. What I want you to do now is to step into your moment and take action, because as you know, you're not going to see results if you don't take action. So review these 5 tips, watch the video as many times as you need to, and figure out ways that you can implement these 5 tips into your lifestyle habits and these healthy habits that you're creating to make it a whole lot easier for yourself. And if you're not already on my VIP list and you like the content like this, make sure you head on over to bertavip.com to sign up. It's free, and it's basically just an avenue that I use to help share helpful resources like this, and it's delivered right to your inbox. So you can go over to bertavip.com to sign up, where I certainly have many more additional resources on my website at bertalippert.com, including if you're ready to make an investment and you want to work with me and do some coaching or training. So I thank you so much for letting me share this with you, and I'll see you next time.